Jaya Prabhuji. Hello, welcome to the Retroprogressive Yoga Institute. My name is Swami Omkarananda. I am a disciple of Prabhuji since 1997, and in this institute I share my understandings and reflections upon the teachings of Prabhuji. In this course, we are exploring the book Tantra, Liberation in the Word, in which Prabhuji shares the pearls of wisdom of the Tantric revelation. We are doing a series of courses, and this is the course number 3, and we are in the lecture number 7. In this course, we have been exploring the Ati Marga, which is one of the stages of the development of Indian spirituality, in which ascetic sects emerged in search for ways to realize truth. We are going into the life of the Pashu-patas, and in the previous classes, which I recommend to watch before this, but every lecture still have its own theme, we have been exploring what were the practices of the Pashu-patas, going deep into the path of asceticism in different cultures, and specifically in the path of the Shaiva ascetics, the first Shaiva ascetics that were these amazing seekers, about the path of devotion that they chose and the different vows that they took in order to get closer to their true nature. In the following classes, we are going to explore the doctrine of the Pashu-patas, what they saw, what they discovered, how they saw reality, how they explain what were their aspirations. Now, Pashu-patas were a sect in which, in order to be initiated, you had to be a male Brahman. The Brahman was the priesthood caste of the Indian Vedic society, and therefore they're mostly very educated in the different philosophies and spiritual wisdom. What is very peculiar in these seekers is that they were not after theories or philosophical explanations. They reached that level of realization that words were not enough for them, and they were not seeking for some verbal pacifier of what is the truth. No, they look for a direct experience. They understood that in order to realize yourself, to know who you are, it cannot be a theory, it cannot be a pastime for the free time. It needs to be a whole life commitment. And this is how they renounced their social position, they renounced their possessions, they renounced any attachment to the world, and they undertook a life of austerities, solitude, and decorated with an ecstatic devotion. The Pashu-patas were courageous seekers that were ready to look at themselves and overcome their conditioning, going towards death instead of running away from death, embracing the word, the life, and understanding that this is just a short period within eternity, and it's an opportunity that needs to be used for awakening. These seekers can only inspire us admiration. They put the bar very high because they were ready to pay the price, and their vibrant hearts that were in ecstatic love with their beloved, with their source, they were ready to pay the price because this is how lovers are. They're ready to sacrifice for the sake of the union. And what I need, if I want to merge with my beloved, I need to disappear into the beloved. And this is how their love for Rudra inspired them to become as Rudra, to become with Rudra, and they went through everything what is required to realize it. And from them we have so many saints and acharyas that show light and show the path and inspired the later development, which would be the tantric revelation. The Pashu-patas were seekers of truth, and if we look at ourselves or others, we will find in every human a seeker. It's as if the humans feel not complete. They need to seek for something. As it is, it's not enough. What each one will seek will depend on their understanding, their upbringing, their grace maybe, their level of awareness. We can seek to complete ourselves in so many ways, in possessions, in company, in position. Whoever turn into the search for the divine, for the truth, for themselves, get to some understanding that beside that, nothing will complete me. I need to search for my source, for my origins, for who I am. We see Prabhuji's life, we see the life of a passionate seeker, and this is what is expressed in his books, because he, more than speaking about certain happenings in history, he's passionate about learning about the seekers that look for what he looked for and found it and express it and live it in different ways. So in this class, we are going to see how they look for the truth and how they explain the truth in the doctrine of the Pashu-patas. Let's get started. The 5 categories. The Pashu-patas recognize these 5 basic categories of existence. 1. Kāraṇa or cause. 2. Kārya or effect. 3. Yoga or union. 4. Vidhi or prescriptions. 5. Dukkhaṇa or end of suffering. When searching for reality, humans observe the diverse variety that our senses can grasp and ask themselves how we can categorize. Do we find things in common? What are the basic categories of existence? In Sanskrit, it is tattvas, and different darshanas or philosophical schools of India will identify different types of categories of existence in the attempt to understand what are the basic blocks that build this diverse reality. The Pashu-patas identify 5, and the first one is the cause, and the second is the effect. So it's obvious that when we look to explain something, we go and find the origin of it. What is its source, from where it comes, how it came upon. So the search for reality is the search for the source, for the first origin that caused the effect. If I don't know my source, I cannot know myself. So they define a relationship of cause and effect. So let's see how they explain it. The Pañcārtha Vāśya of Sri Kaundinya explains. Thus, these 5 categories are explained: Kārya, Kāraṇa, Yoga, Vidhi and Dukkhaṇa, in summary and in detail, classified and specialized, with terminations and with conclusions. The windows that we have to explore the doctrine of the Pashu-patas are very few. This is a very ancient sect that started maybe almost 2,000 years ago. So luckily we still have a few of the many scriptures that were back then. One of them is the Pashu-patas Sutra, where the practice is explained, written probably by Lakulisa, that we will speak about him in the next course, and the commentary on this scripture, written by Kaundinya, that is called the Pañcārtha Bhashya. Pancha is from 5. Pañcārtha is the doctrine of the 5 categories. And in his commentary, he will explain in detail what each category means. Pañcārtha, the supreme secret. The Skanda Purana says, this supreme secret, known as Pañcārtha, is given to you in order to release Brahmins from the bond of death. By this initiation, Diksha, you shall lead the Brahmins to the highest stage. The system of the Pashu-patas was called Pañcārtha because of these 5 categories that we're going to study next. The purpose of this path was to release Brahmins from the bondage of death. And the emphasis is Brahmins, which make us understand that this sect was respectful of the Vedic caste system. And in the beginning of the Ati-marga, the Diksha, the initiation, was restricted only to this caste. We will see that the Tantra revelation will come to change these restrictions. And one of the principles will be to delete every differentiation of caste. Was a very fundamental principle, the equality of opportunities, of spiritual opportunities for every human being. So the Pashu-patas were just the beginning of a revolution that will go and increase in challenging the established religion, and that's how the religion of India became enriched by this new approach, these new secrets that come and include everyone, male and female. The Pashu-patas were restricted men that a woman couldn't undertook this path, which means that they couldn't get liberated. So it's very significant, the attitude that we see. But the Pañcārtha is still within this system, and we will see the first seeds of a transformation. So the cause and the effect, this is the topic of this lecture, and we will study what they mean by each. Inquisitive souls that look at reality and try to understand often start by the question, from where? From where everything arrives? From where it emerges? Is there a creator? Is there someone behind this sophisticated creation? From where I appear? Who made me? Who is my maker? And this is how different spiritual paths meet suggested versions of creation. Who is the creator? How we call it? What is his name? What is his purpose? And what is the creation for? What is the meaning of my life? So causality is one of the fundamental blocks of every ontology, in every suggestion on path philosophy. And the Pashu-patas had their own answer about the cause and the effect. Before we go deep into their explanation, let's go deep into what is causality. In order to develop this topic, I will bring a quote from Prabhuji from the book Advaita Vedanta, in which he explored the causality of the Vedantic path and explains further about it. Let's read. Causality. A cause-effect relationship exists between two objects when one is the origin of the other. We call the producing element cause and the produced one effect. The term cause is called in Sanskrit Kāraṇa, and the term effect is translated as Kārya. Most theories of causation hold that the cause is distinct from its effect and precedes it. Other theories hold that the effect comes into existence when the cause ends, while there are others that postulate that the cause continues to exist in its effect. We can see that when we speak about recognizing the cause and recognizing the effect, we need to see what precedes what. By definition, the cause precedes the effect. Now, what is the relationship between the cause and the effect? And in the scale of understanding the origin of existence, of humanity, of everything that is, in order to recognize the cause, we need to be able to put a limit between what is cause and what is effect. Here, Prabhuji mentions just 3 of the many ways to understand the relationship between cause and effect. It can be different. The cause just is different from the effect. We can put an example of the painter and the painting. He is the cause of the painting because he is the one who painted it. But the painting is independent from its cause. We can give the example maybe of the child and the parents. The parents are the cause of the son, but the son is an independent being, separate from the parents. The second option is that once the effect appears, the cause disappears. We can give the example of the caterpillar and the butterfly. It's just cannot coexist. It's either or. It transforms completely, making disappear what was before. So we can just start having a taste of that. There are many ways to explain. In the spirituality of India, there are many darshanas that explain this relationship in different ways. And the Pashu-patas, one of the very, very first esoteric sects of this spirituality, they were also exploring what is the relationship, who is the origin, and how they interact. Prabhuji continues. In the West, we see that Aristotle pointed to the prime motor as the final cause of motion, which moves everything without moving. Aristotle divides beings into natural and manufactured. Natural beings are those that have movement by or from themselves, while manufactured beings receive it from the outside. The characteristics of natural beings are their motion, development, and transformation as a function of an intrinsic force. Physis or nature is the principle of movement and mutation. So here Prabhuji brings an example of Greek philosophy, actually of Aristotle, that they didn't give a mythological explanation or a religious spiritual revelation, but just a reasonable analysis. And by using his reason, it got to the conclusion that everything is changing. Now, what is the origin, the force that caused this change? So must be, if we track back, must be something that is not changing, and that which is not changing should be the cause of everything else. So everything follows. So by noticing movement, he's explaining this way that things must be moving towards this first motor. And the first motor that put everything else in motion should be immutable. Needs to be something that is not. I will put the example of the cause. If I take myself, and I came from my mother and father. In turn, my mother and father came from my grandmother and grandfather, and so on and so on. If we keep tracking the cause and we go up to the family tree, until when it will be, okay, this is the first, this is the origin, indefinitely, or there will be one that will be the first human. The source, the origin, the Kāraṇa, was explained in different ways in different paths. We have the myth of creation in different cultures. We have in the Bible the Genesis, the appearance of the first man, Adam, and from him, Eve. In the same way, the Pashu-patas rishis observe the phenomenal world and try to explain their experience in terms of cause and effect. So let's see how they describe the origin of all. Kāraṇa or cause. This refers to the primordial Ishvara or Maheshvara as the original cause of all causes and the original cause of all creation and annihilation. He is identified by the name Pati, which denotes his infinite knowledge and power. Emerging from the Vedic revelation, we see one of the first approaches of monotheism. In the Pashu-patas, we find this one God, one cause, one origin, the one who has all the power to create and to annihilate. And this got the name of Pati, the Lord, the one who has the all knowledge and all power, the cause of all causes. If we track every cause, we will find at the end the one creator. When speaking about cause, there are two main types. One is the material cause and the other one is the efficient cause. If we take the example of the painter and the painting, we will say that the painter is the efficient cause, the effective cause, this one that creates and transforms one cause into the effect. But the material cause of the painting is not the painter itself, but the wood, the canvas. And the question is, Pati, which kind of cause he is? He is the efficient cause, he is the material cause. Shankaracharya described the Pashu-patas as those who believe that the creator is the efficient cause. Pati is the efficient cause of creation, but not the material cause. And that is through the beginning of the Pashu-pata doctrine, believe that there is some material cause that is ever existed, and from that emerge and transform every other effect. But with the appearance of later acharyas in this sect, especially Lakulisa, the most prominent that we know about of the Pashu-patas, he then related Pati as the efficient and the material cause of the manifestation. Kārya or effect. This refers to everything that depends on the cause. It includes vidya, knowledge, cognition or animation, kala, the known, inert or inanimate, and pashu, the knower, the living or the animated, individual souls. The keen observation of the Pashu-patas led them to recognize that if we look at this wide variety of names and forms, basically we can divide everything into three categories: the knower, the known, and the knowledge. For everything to exist needs to be something to be known, but without somebody that know it, it will be not existing. So must be created a knower, a subject that grasps an object and considers it as separate. And this is the knowledge, the cognition. Basically, he is describing this mental division that we make between the one who knows, that we identify with, the knowledge, that it's the ability to grasp, define, categorize, determine causes, and the known, which we relate as something separate. Without this separation of knower, knowledge, and known, will not be creation. Everything will be void. So in order to be creation, needs to be a knower, a known, and a knowledge. Now, what is the bondage that they try to separate themselves, to liberate themselves from? Is the bondage of cause and effect. Is the illusion of thinking that there is something that is external to me, that is separate from me, that is in front of me. And the search for the subject is the search for this merging, the cause, in which the cause and the effect merge and disappear. And the liberation will be the liberation from the cause and the effect. In the Retroprogressive Yoga, Prabhuji deals, of course, with the topic of causality and explains that in order for causality to be, it necessarily depends on the existence of time. In order for creation to be, it needs to be time. In order to a cause precede the effect, necessary needs to be a division between cause and effect, and need to be a timeline in which the effect took place after the cause. So all this division depends on time, and time is non-existence. So in the game of the dream might be a feeling of a cause and effect, but the reality is that there is only the now. Let's hear how he says it in his words.
Whenever you are in the now, you are not in time. Usually people are very wrong. They think that time is past, present, and future. Time is only past and future. You can say the past year, January, is past. And in another 5 years, 10 years, will be future. Is future now. Where is that time that you can call now? The now is not part of time. Whenever you are in the now, in the present, you are atemporal. And you can see the mind dissolve in the present.
In order to explain the illusion of time, Prabhuji brings the example of the dream. In the dream, we appear somewhere, and we didn't dream how we got there, but in the dream, we know how we got there. Or in the dream, we meet someone. We don't dream how we met him, but in the dream, we know this person from before. So the present of the dream comes charged with the past. So the past exists in the present, doesn't exist somewhere. So the time, the causality, might exist in the rules of the game, but not in reality. The experience of reality that Prabhuji describes is an eternal now. Is only the now exists, and the future and the past are an illusion of feeling that can only exist now. So the path of the Pashu-patas, the spiritual path, the spiritual search, is a search after that who knows, the knower and the known, that who knows the past, the present, and the future, that who knows the cause and the effect. Must be, and there is some background which is unchanging, the first cause of all causes. And towards this discovery of our identity as the background, as the awareness of all this illusionary change, there the spiritual search leads. And in order to reach there, in order to get closer to there, we can only start by exploring where we are now. That's what characterizes the retroprogressive yoga. It's an exploration into our very and simply and direct experience. Because if we explore the experience, we disassemble the experience, we will identify it by our own means, not by some theory. The Pashu-patas were not philosophers, they were explorers of what is in me the knower, what is the knowledge, what is the known, and who I am in all display of knowing and known. And Prabhuji says a deep and honest and sincere and passionate exploration will lead you to see that you are not the knower, you are not the known, you are the background in which everything happened, and you are that peace, that love, that eternity that is not affected by cause and effect. It doesn't have a beginning. It's eternity, it's you, is here, and even if you choose to identify with the effects, or with the time, with the illusion, with the mental illusion, still it's there, unchanging and eternal. So the Pashu-patas, in order to realize this, they understood that they need to put aside many things that are actually the obstacles for realizing what is always there, that is unchanging. And this is the spiritual path, just to clean and to... And Prabhuji has this example where he said, in order to arrive somewhere, if you ask for directions, how to reach to the airport, the first thing they will ask you is where you are now. So where you are located, you can reach to your destination. So all the focus of these teachings is to focus on where you are now, where you are, who is the experiencer, and instead of taking for granted these conceptions, to understand what I learned, what I accept, what I believe, and what I really experience. So the invitation is just to go deep into the experience, and there we will find whatever it was always there. If there is something real, cannot suddenly appear, needs to be the first cause, needs to be always there. And this is the amazing invitation of Prabhuji. So we will finish here, and in the next class we will continue exploring the categories of existence explained by the Pashu-patas. So thank you, Prabhuji, for putting this together and opening our eyes just to awake our curiosity to explore into the causes. We'll meet in the next class. Jaya Prabhuji.